right. So every year, last 2 years, John and I, who is not present today, he is in Mexico with his family. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm going solo. Here we go. This past, as you're listening to this, it's probably going to be 2 weeks. Next week, it'll be about a week and a half later. So we just got back a week and a half ago from Funnel Hacking Live. What is Funnel Hacking Live? Funnel Hacking Live is an event that is put on by the company called ClickFunnels. John and I have been a part of that community for 5 years. I guess we found it in 2015 from we were in part of this mastermind coaching program. And one of the coaches said, hey, check out this guy, Russell Brunson. And then we started consuming all his information. This guy is just a ninja marketer with a huge heart. He's an online marketer, and those guys get kind of a bad rap. And I think rightfully so in some instances, but it's the saying, one bad apple spoils the bunch. He is the exception. And so all the people that are in his community and in his environment, like what he's created, gathers all of these like best marketers who have like a mission and a vision and want to really like genuinely help people and do so really effectively. Well, every year he puts on an event for the last 6 years called Funnel Hacking Live. What is funnel hacking? It's the term that he uses for modeling what somebody else is doing in the online space. And then as you model it, you get to see not just like what the offer structure is, but what the sales message is, and basically what is making them so successful and how can I model it to be successful myself? And so those people are called funnel hackers. I am a funnel hacker. On the back of my laptop, it says funnel hacker, right? It's an identity. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So it's awesome. It is a crazy, wonderful event. And because you think like marketing is going to be boring, we're going to be sitting in chairs and like people are just going to be talking about like strategies and tactics. It is not that. He went through that when he was coming up in the marketing world, Russell Brunson, that is. He would go to these marketing events and he talks about it. He's like, I was losing my mind. I was so excited, so pumped up about everything that I was learning. And everyone was just sitting there taking notes. It was so boring. So he wanted to put on something and create something that was like, not just like marketing with awesome information, but like a party. And so it's crazy. Over 5,000 people, I think at 5,000, over 4,500, it was close to 5,000 people showed up to this thing. It's been sold out like that every single time. First year John and I went was 2019. And we were like, man, I don't know how he can beat that. 2020, what we just came back from, beat it hands down. And so what I wanted to talk about today is the top five takeaways from the event. So what he does, he brings in all these speakers. He spoke, I think, 8 times and presented information. A couple of the takeaways are from him. But we saw Tony Robbins. If you've never seen Tony Robbins, oh my God, that was on my bucket list. And we got to see him. One of the stories I'll tell today is from his presentation at the end. It's crazy, like mind-blowing stuff. Tom Bilyeu, if you don't know who Tom Bilyeu is, he founded Quest Nutrition. I forget what the exact name, but like Quest bars, like the nutritional bars. And he built that thing up to $1 billion, sold it for $1 billion, and now has really made his impact in a show that he's created called Impact Theory. He brings all the thought leaders from all these different walks of life on and interviews them. And he spoke, and I think one of the takeaways is from him. Yes. That's actually a bonus takeaway. I say it's top 5, but we're actually gonna go through 6 because there's so many, I couldn't just whittle it down to 5. Yeah, so, and then not just marketers, like, people who are like known marketers in the world, but also people who are just like in their own little niche, like doing really well and crushing it. So we talked, one woman did a presentation, Anissa Holmes, I think it is, just all about brick and mortar studio. She was a dentist and now she's helping other dentists build their businesses. So it's really fascinating. And one thing I'll say is before going, I was like, man, it's really not the right time. Like personally, my wife is like, she has a new job that she's training for. She's going back to school. We have kids that we're, trying to, logistically get in and out of school at different times. And it's just crazy. And like, it was a horrible time, honestly, if I really look at it, but the timing is never right. And so you just make it right. And my wife, who is just a freaking warrior, like had a crazy week and made it work, and my hat's off to her. So anyway, all that to say, there's always reasons not to do something. And I talked to John, I was like, man, there's so like, it was like third way through. And I was like, man, there's so much good information that it's so easy to be like, oh, I know it. And let me just keep doing what I do. And like just a little takeaway, just a little shift in perspective, a little tactic, a little strategy, some like one little thing can absolutely change your business. And so one of the things we do is I literally took like 50 pages of notes while I was there. And I've been going through and just pulling out from each presentation, one thing to take action on. One thing to take action on. And so I have a list right now of about 14 things that I'm going to take action on so that the event isn't just like a feel good, hoorah, rah, rah type thing where you get all inspired, then you go home and get stuck in the same patterns. But actually there's actionable items that I can take so that that experience, that event, the sacrifice I made by going there is actually really going to make an impact on my business and in my life. All right, so let's get to it. Takeaway number one, the power of frameworks. Basically, the whole event was wrapped around this framework idea. And the best way I can explain it to you is that teaching from a framework actually makes your students more successful. And what a framework does is just organizes information so that we can, as a student, consuming that information, we can compartmentalize and put it in its place and see a process by which we can follow to get an experienced result, whatever that is, a desired result. And so it's like Brendan Burchard talked about, he's like, frameworks are your saviors. And I believe we talked about it on this podcast before. So here's the best example of it. I've read Power of Now, I can't remember how many times, over 10 times easily. And I've lost track at this point. And I couldn't because I've read it so many times, I can tell you like, it's about felt oneness with being. It's about like understanding that your truth is inside of you, like the parable he described in the beginning of the book. But there's a pain body that's living inside you somewhere, and you got to figure out where that is and not be identified with it. And then that pain body wants to attract other people in the same pain, so we can kind of feed off each other's pain. And there's a point at which he talks about, you see what I'm saying? Like, I've read that thing 10 times and I'm like, I get it. It's felt oneness with being, and like, what is God and what is being, and pain body versus no pain body, and like surrender versus resignation. Like, that's all in there. But if someone asked me like, what is the Power of Now about? There's no framework that he outlined that allows me to retain the information and then tell people about it to help spread the message. Now, this isn't a slight on Eckhart Tolle. Like, Eckhart Tolle is the man. He's awesome. He's changed lives. The book changed my life. But my point is, it wasn't in a framework. It was in a question and answer format designed in chapters, right? So like, I don't know what chapter to go back to look at what part of the framework, because there wasn't a framework, so that I can help retain it. Now, contrary, there is a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. From that book, this man, Stephen Covey, has created an entire organization, entire business around, because there's a framework. And I can say, oh man, have you ever read the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People? Like, no, what are they? Well, there's 7. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I go all through all of them, right? It's easier to describe, which means I've retained it more, which means it can actually make a better impact in my life. So for John and I, like an example in yoga, not in like highly effective personal development stuff, we have created a framework for the sequencing a class, right? There's 6 or 7 steps, depending on the sequence we teach. Each step has a pinnacle. Each pinnacle, we follow a simple to complex process to get to that pinnacle. And the entire class is based around myofascial methodology. Now, this is supremely helpful. So what I just described was a very simple framework of therapeutic vision, myofascial methodology, breaking a class into 7 steps, each step having a pinnacle, the way in which we get to that pinnacle, right? So that when we teach it in a teacher training, people can retain that information and then be able to go back and teach it more effectively. The power of frameworks is in it helps you articulate the information better, and it helps your students receive the results they're looking for and assimilate the information easier. Frameworks. Put your stuff in a framework and then name it so that you can make it yours. And then you can teach it from a place of like, hey, this is a framework that I've used over time. And if you borrow someone else's, just give them credit. And then as it evolves, it becomes your own. Frameworks. Okay, cool. Number 2, Russell Brunson did a presentation called The 3 Hidden Closes. What is a close? It's a way of compelling somebody to say yes to whatever it is that you're buying. And the 3 closes, here it is a framework. 1 is emotion, 2 is logic, and 3 is fear. Let me explain these. Nobody buys from logic. They don't. We all make purchases. And forget like even the buying, selling situation. Like we all do everything we do because of emotion, not logic. And the best way to evoke emotion is to tell stories. So while Tony Robbins was speaking, he walked around and he was like trying to get people to interact and stuff. And so he had everyone raise their hand like, hey, just tell me what kind of car you drive. And one person who was actually the co-founder of ClickFunnels, he drives this Ferrari. And he had him stand up. He's like, what do you drive? He's like, I drive a Ferrari. And it was like a QS 1028,000 or something, whatever the name was. I'm not a car dude. And he asked, then he was like, well, why did you buy it? And he was like, because it's a fast car. And then he was like, no, but really tell me why you bought it. He was like, because it's sleek, because it represents like achievement and success. And so what he got to was that what he said wasn't like the horsepower. It wasn't like the power windows. I don't know about power windows. It wasn't the, 0 to 60 in such and such amount of time. Like it was none of the features. It was none of like the logical reasons why you would buy one or not. It was very specifically an emotion. He identified it, and we all purchase based on our identities, meaning it comes from an emotional place, not a logical place. And so these closes, like the first one is to tell a story, to evoke the emotion, to like match the identity of the people that you want to serve so that you can then compel them to say yes, because we make decisions based on emotion. Now, after that, there's logic, because people do want to know, what are the features? What are the benefits of what it is that I'm about to buy? And so you go into, oh, well, it does this and it does that and it does this and it does that and it does this and it does that. If you have ever bought something and then had to go home and explain why you bought it to whoever it was, whether it was a son, daughter, significant other, mom, dad, whatever it was, what you do is you don't tell them you bought it because of emotion. You tell them you bought it because of all the logical reasons that make sense. We use logic to explain the purchase after we made the person purchase emotionally. The third thing is fear. Now, we're on a yoga entrepreneur podcast, and like we want, like the whole yoga thing is like fear is you either come from fear or love. We want to come from love. Well, that's great. I totally believe that. But I also know that people need to be given a reason to act now. And what the fear-based closes is all you're doing is saying, hey, soon you're not going to be able to get this thing, right? Either because there's a limited number of them left, that's scarcity, or because there's a limited amount of time left, that's urgency, right? And what happens is someone may be, yes, emotionally with it. They may see all the reasons why, oh man, I love that feature. I love that benefit. I love that feature. I love that benefit. And then if you miss hey, it's about to go away. And if you don't do it now, you're never going to be able to do it. If you don't add that third element, someone can be like on the fence, ready to say yes. And they won't say yes because they'll think, I'll just do it tomorrow. We all do that. Hey, I'll just wait till tomorrow. I'll just wait till tomorrow. Oh, you know what? Maybe next time I'll figure it out and I'll do it. The third way, the fear, is really just giving someone a good reason to say yes to it now. And remember, we're doing this so that we can help people. We can add value to their lives, right? We're doing a business that we believe in, that our hearts are in, that we know can affect change in people positively and like hopefully make a difference in their lives for the rest of their lives. So the fear aspect, we're not selling fear. We're just saying, hey, if you want this, and you believe on how good it is, and you are ready to make that change in your life, I just want to let you know that there's a limited number of them and there's a limited amount of time. Now's your time to do it. Do it. All right. So that's number 2, the 3 hidden closes: emotion, logic, and fear. All right. 3. Oh, this is from Ryan Holiday. Ryan Holiday, he's written a bunch of books, awesome books. One was The Perennial Seller, The Obstacle is the Way, Stillness is the Key, and Trust Me, I'm Lying. Wonderful, wonderful books. But he came up and he talked about it. What he was really describing was a book that he just most recently wrote, which was The Perennial Seller. And what he's talking about is creating works and a business that can stand the test of time. And how do you do that? And so number 3 is create a timeless message upon which your business is based. And what he was describing in that, I've got some notes, was that, where is it? What's classic stays classic. And so what he's done for a lot of his books is he researched these classic works of art by these masters of years past. Like he studied Plato and Socrates, and he's been basing his works, like the perennial seller. How do you make something that lasts? Like the ego is the enemy is another one. And what he's doing is he's creating these timeless messages because he's basing the message on a problem and a solution that humans will always have. And this is what's so awesome about this practice of yoga and what we're actually doing on our mats is we're basically teaching a timeless solution to a timeless human problem, which is, hey, how do we get out of our heads? How do we soften the apparent self, the egoic self that creates all of this drama and chaos in our lives? And how do we connect to a deeper truth within us? Now, this truth that's within us is basically what like every religion has been based on, what countless works of art, countless poetry has been written about over the years. But what he was describing is to attach to a very specific thing, right? What is one thing that you can create a message around that will be a timeless message that people like my grandfather would have connected with, that my father would have connected with, that I will connect with, that my daughters will connect with over time. And so I don't have the answer for you, but like, I know yoga is already like, we're already in it, right? We're already in the timeless solution to a timeless problem because of the human predicament. What did he say? Oh yeah, he said, the best works of art are rooted in what makes us human. Oh, it's so good. And so what makes us human and the solution to the human condition is the practice of yoga. And so we're kind of there, but what I'm working on now is like, what is like in that? Like, it's still vague. How do I describe that to somebody to compel them to come practice yoga with me, right? And so what I'm working on and what John's working on is, what is that timeless message? What is that timeless message that I can then wrap our message of yoga around so that it stands the test of time? All right, that was number 3, Create a Timeless Message by Ryan Holiday. Thank you, sir. Number 4, so we actually, before Funnel Hacking Live, John and I left on, so Funnel Hacking Live was from Wednesday to Saturday, but we left the prior Sunday because there was an event being held by Stephen Larson. We're in his mastermind group called Offer Lab, and he held a 2-day event on Monday and Tuesday. One was, it's Monday, baby, live. And then the other one was Content Machine. And he brought on that second day a gentleman by the name of Peng Jun. He's from Malaysia. And he is just like crushing it in the online space. He is a funnel hacker. He's in the ClickFunnels community. He was in Russell Brunson's inner circle. And we got the chance to see him present at this really small event called Content Machine. And what he said was, this is more tactical, create a mother retargeting ad. So if you're putting ads out on, let's just say Facebook for right now, and there is a good majority of people who look at it, who consume some of the content, that whatever the ad is saying, but then just don't do anything with it. And there's a portion of the people who actually click on it, and then they may even opt in, but they don't buy what it is that you want to buy, or they may click on it and then look at it and not even opt in, and then just, exit out and then move on with scrolling and distracting themselves. A retargeting ad says, hey, you people who looked at this ad, this video for a certain amount of time, or you people who clicked but didn't opt in, I'm going to send you an ad that isn't trying to get you to like buy anything. I'm just going to give you a piece of content that is based on what you saw but didn't take action on. And what he called this was the mother retargeting ad. And basically he said, whatever program it is that you're selling, get a bunch of testimonials from people who have already gone through it. And if you can get them to video it, awesome. Or set up just an image of something that has like the feel of what the experience is, whether it's yoga or an event or a talk, whatever it is that you're selling. And then get those people to comment on that thread. So I'm talking Facebook right now. So you have the image or you have the video, and then you have all these comments of like, hey, what was the biggest takeaway? And then all these people are saying, oh, it was awesome, it did this for me, or it was awesome, it did that for me, it changed my life this way and that way. And what he called that was the mother retargeting ad, because people who then like watched a certain amount of video or clicked the link but didn't opt in, they get sent that ad that is basically just tons and tons of social proof and testimonials of the thing that the person saw but didn't take action on. He called it the mother retargeting ad, and he makes one for every program that he's selling. I was like, it's so genius, because what most people will do, and you know this if you've been on Amazon, first thing you do before you buy something, you just look at all the reviews. What do other people say? And I look at the bad ones, then I look at the good ones. And I want to base my decision on what other people have done. And so this mother retargeting ad is something that we're going to start implementing in all the different programs that we come up with, so that when someone decides to say kind of yes, meaning they're interested but didn't take action, we can send them that and say, hey, here's what everyone else has experienced who did say yes and who did take action. Really, really big game changer, because most of like the money that's made in advertising isn't in the first ad, it's in the retargeting ads, meaning sending people information after they've consumed a certain amount of a video, or after they've like clicked but not opted in. Anyway, mother retargeting ads, watch them, they're gonna come out. All right, 5, this was from Jermaine Griggs. Jermaine Griggs, this is crazy. He started at the age of 19. He had this gift growing up of being able to listen to music and play it by ear on the piano. And so he's created this whole business. I think he's making like $400,000 a month teaching people how to play the piano by ear. It's phenomenal. It's all completely online business. So his presentation was awesome. But one of the things that caught me was he said, freedom is elimination. That's number 5. Freedom is elimination. And here's the great analogy. Here's a framework that he told us and talked to us about to help us kind of articulate this. He said, forest, trees, branches, leaves. Forest, trees, branches, leaves. He said, the forest and the trees are the things that we want to be focusing on. They're the big needle movers, the strategies and the tactics that we can focus our attention on, that if we focus 20% of our attention on that, it will create 80% of the results that we see in our lives. And he said, at a certain point, it's probably not your role, but you need to get someone to have the role of focusing on the branches and the leaves. But in the beginning, the branches and the leaves are just the minutia, the little details that don't really matter, right? That if we spend most of our time on that, it's going to take 80% of our time and only give us 20% of the results that we're looking for. So freedom is elimination. And we know this to be true in the yoga world. We even say it. I forget who said this quote, but I'll say it. It's not mine. In the pursuit of knowledge, every day something is added. And in the pursuit of wisdom, every day something is subtracted. What we're saying is, it's kind of that same concept of like, man, like if I'm looking to do more with less, right? I need to subtract things out of my life so that I can focus on the things that really matter, right? That's wisdom, right? There's an accumulation of knowledge phase, but then as we get older, there's like, what is this really? Like, what am I doing that really makes my life more valuable and more worth living? And so you start subtracting all the things that don't work for you, that don't add value to it. And it's no bit different in business. We can focus on the trivial many or the critical few. What he was saying, freedom is in focusing on the critical few things that make the biggest difference in our lives, not the trivial many. That was number 5. Thank you, Jermaine Griggs. Last one, and this is a bonus. This is from Tom Bilyeu. Where did I put that note? Oh, this is so good. He said, this is number 6, I'm not good enough yet. Yet is crucial because we use this analogy of artificial intelligence, AI. In the AI world, they don't call a mistake. They call it a sample. And his entire presentation was like, listen, human beings are adaptation machines. This is our role. And that means we have to stumble, learn, and then grow, and stumble and learn and then grow. And whatever we're looking for, whatever we want to achieve in our lives, right now, we're not good enough to get it. That's the simple fact. In fact, most people are just average. All of us. I know you're thinking, but I have a special gift. You do have a special gift. I have a special gift. Everyone has a special gift, which then makes us all average within our special gift. So what makes the difference between the people that actually achieve and offer that special gift to the world and makes a big difference in their lives are the people who are willing to fail forward, to stumble and then get back up and do it again and iterate and iterate and iterate. He said within 15 minutes, an artificial intelligence machine, because of their willingness to just make a mistake, learn, process it, and then move on, like within 15 minutes, artificial intelligence machine can just wipe clean in whatever game they're playing, chess or what have you, any human being in the entire world. Why? It's because of the iterative process. They're just willing to make a mistake, learn from it, and move on. Make a mistake, learn from it, and move on, right? As humans, we have a blind spot. Like, we'll make a mistake, we'll judge ourselves for a mistake, and then we'll forget about it, we won't learn from it, and then we're doomed to repeat it again. And this is the difference, is that people that have achieved more versus other people, because we're all average, essentially, right? We all have a gift, but we're all average, are the people who are willing to just continue to move forward in the direction of their dreams, regardless of what comes in their way, any stumbling blocks, any hurdles, any hardships, any struggles, whatever comes in their way, they deal with it effectively, skillfully, honestly, truthfully, and then they take the next step to continue moving in the direction of their dreams, period. That is 5 plus 1 bonus of the key takeaways that we got from, that I say we, John's not here, that I got from Funnel Hacking Live. We've already signed up to go next year. It is an event not to be missed. I have no affiliation with ClickFunnels at this point, but you should definitely go. I am definitely at some point going to become an affiliate of them to sell the software, because it is changing the game for our business. And I know it could probably be the same for people who are in our community. I guess that's it. That's all I got for today. I appreciate you continuing to watch this if you're watching it on YouTube, listening if you're listening to Apple Podcasts. And yeah, that's it. Do the work, people. Honor the struggle and make this world a better place to live. Thank you so much. Peace. Yes. Thanks so much for listening to Yoga Entrepreneur Secrets. Do you have a question that you'd like us to answer raw and uncut on the podcast?
If you want your questions answered, all you need to do is head over to Apple Podcasts and do 3 simple things.
1, rate and review, telling us what you think of the podcast. 2, in that review, ask anything you want related to yoga. And 3, if you want a shout out, leave your Instagram handle or name. And that's it.
Then listen in to hear your question answered live, raw, and uncut.
Join us next time on Yoga Entrepreneur Secrets Podcast.